This is Kathi Quinn with Floriani. Floriani is a division of R&K Distributing, and I want to welcome you to this week's project of the week. Well, I have been at 2 hands-on sewing schools, one in Pennsylvania, one in Pigeon Forge, Tennessee, and we have had a great time over the last 2 weeks. But I got a great question that I thought I would answer for this week. You know, a lot of us have a lot of patterns that are for hand embroidery. Some of our older patterns that were from when we were children, from our grandparents, or we just have some stuff in our stash. How would I do that if I want to do it in the hoop? Because remember, I'm all about the hoop, so let's look at what we would do. Now, what I did was I took a picture of the piece of paper with the pattern on it. Then I put that JPEG on my desktop of my computer. Once I'm there, this is how we're going to proceed. I'm going to come down my left-hand toolbar and I'm going to left mouse click on my backdrop tool. This is my load backdrop. Now my image is right here. I dropped it on my desktop. Now this is a JPEG, so I can't import artwork. I'm loading a backdrop. So I'm going to open this. Now when it comes in huge. And I'll show you what I'm talking about. I'm going to come get my ruler just so you can understand. If I measure straight across here, this came in 20 inches wide. Well, I happen to know I measured the actual pattern, and from this edge to this edge is 5 inches. So it comes in oversized. We always want to create the stitches closest to the actual size of our embroidery. So what I'm going to do is simply right mouse click on the image, and I'm going to define the scale. Now what it's telling me to do is, Kathi, drag a line across where you know the exact measurement. So I'm going to drag this across, let go, and it says, what is that supposed to be? Well, it's supposed to be 5 inches. So now when I say OK, it's going to resize the entire image proportionately. So I only need to find one section. I could have measured just the beak and put in the actual measurement of the beak, and it would have resized the whole image proportionately. But I'm going to say OK. Now, of course, that has made it a lot smaller because now it's actual size. So let's come straight up to our zoom box, and let's go ahead and say I want to see this at 100%. I'd like to see it good size. So you can see this is a little applique with a little chick. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in here and I am going to just digitize the wing only. There's no reason for us to go through all of this because it's the same process. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my vector line tools because I want it to be good, perfect artwork. Because I guarantee you, even though this artwork looks good, if we look at it really close, we're going to see, well, let's do real quick. We're going to see lots of pixelated images. So it's not as good as it looks. So if we tried to do a one-click wonder with this, it would be kind of messy. So I wanted to do this, and I'm going to tell you it's really easy because we're not talking about a huge image here. So we can have a lot of fun working with this. So let's look at the wing. So again, I'm going to come right here to my line tool, and if you have a pen and tablet, you could select the pen. You could free draw it with your mouse if you're that good. I personally am not. So I'm going to go with my line. And I'm going to come in here and I'm simply going to left mouse click. Now I'm going to hold down my control key because if I hold down my control, it will allow my line to create some curves. Because this is curvy around here. And it'll make a smooth, nice curve look. So I'm just simply left mouse clicking all the way, tracing is basically what I'm doing, on top of this wing. Now when I get close to the straight here, I'm going to let go of my control key. I'm going to left mouse click on my point, left mouse click, and I'm going to left mouse click. Now this is my end right here. I am not going to try and match that end. I'm going to come down my left hand toolbar until I get to the close shape tool. I'm going to left mouse click on that, and when I do, it will close that shape exactly, and now I have a nice artwork line around there. Let's go ahead and come over here and get us a bright color so it's easier to see. So let's select it. Let's come on down. and pick a bright pink. There you go. You can see. Now this image is, I'm going to close my control panel, my properties, and you can see that this is artwork. So now I've got some options. Well, I'm going to come down here. I'm going to go to my presets, and you know what? I'm going to make this a 3.0 bean. So now this is a bean stitch with a 3mm stitch length. It'll have a little bit of a hand look. Now, of course, I could go in and I could go to my settings and make that a bean, a half bean. I could make it 5 or 7 repeats. All I'd have to do is open my properties back up and go into my run extras, and then I can work with my bean. Do I want 3 repeats? Do I want 5, 7, 9, 11? So you get the idea. I could change this a little bit, but I'm happy with that. I think that'll give me a good hand look. Now I'm going to come in and I'm going to digitize the feathers. So what I'll do again is I'm going to come and I'm going to get my tool, and I'll take a different color just so we can see it. And I'm simply going to start right here. I'm going to left mouse click. I'm going to come up here, left mouse click, and right mouse click. So I'm just going to go through with a series of left, 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 right, left, 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 right, left, 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 right. All I'm doing with left mouse clicks is I'm defining the path I want my stitches to follow, or my line. And when I right mouse click, it says turn it into a line. So left, 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 right. So now I've got another piece of artwork. Now let's close down our properties for a moment so we can look at this. Now I did each of these separately. So what it would do is it's going to stitch this, then it's going to come and stitch just like I clicked it, because I could do these one at a time. Now I could also select all of these and combine them and have it path. That's personal preference, and look at the way it stitches out. We see which one we like best. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and, just for the sake of repetition, we're going to go ahead and select this first one. Again, I'm going to go to the bean 3.0. I'm going to come here, bean 3.0. And I'm going to continue this. Oops. Until I've got all these done. And you can see what's artwork and what isn't, so it's easy to go by. And one more. Okay. So now I've got that where I'm going to stitch a bean stitch around, and I'm going to stitch this down. Now this wing, it could have been that, hey, maybe I want to applique the wing down and then just stitch this on top. So let's select this. Let's come down to our applique, our one-click wonder, and I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pick blanket. So I'm going to left mouse click, and you can see I've got my applique and it's a blanket stitch. So now I've turned my properties back on right here, and we're going to look at this. And I'm going to say, you know what, I'm going to put a placement line, but I really don't need a tack down, because of course I would be using Quilter Select Applique or Floriani's Applique Wonder. So when I place this, it's going to hold beautifully in place to put on my blanket. Now I don't like how this blanket looks, but we are in full control. I want this blanket density probably at a 2.5. Let's apply that. Ooh, I like that much better. And I could make the legs come in farther or not. I could make them a little skinnier. Let's say 2.5 as well. Or I could make them longer if I needed to, 3.5. So you get the idea of how we would create this. So now this would stitch out, and what would happen is, let's go ahead and turn off my background image so we don't see it. Here it is. I'm sorry. Go down to the last one at the bottom, and it's going to hide our image. So here's what's going to happen. It's going to stitch out a tack down line. I would stick my fabric down. Then it's going to come in and it's going to tack that down with the blanket stitch. Then I would have my thread and I would go ahead and do my nice feathers down the middle. So now I hope you understand, I hope you get the idea, and how we would do this entire image is, remember, this is an applique. So we would start, if it is, it might not be. We may just want to stitch this out on a cup towel. In that case, I wouldn't do this as an applique. I would just go ahead and do it as a blanket stitch, a run stitch, and I might just have a plain piece of fabric. Let's say it's a little tea towel, and I might want to stitch this out all in stitches so it all looks hand embroidered. Then I wouldn't be putting down any applique pieces, but you would still do it looking at it. What would be first? Well, first I would probably do the bird. Then I would probably do the stem on these little flowers. I would have done the beak first, because you can see it's underneath. Now, if we're not doing applique, that's not going to be as relevant, but we would just come in here and do exactly what I did with that and do these all one at a time and create a beautiful hand look out of all those old patterns we have. I hope you enjoyed today's lesson. I hope you learned something new, and I hope you can enjoy a lot of those patterns you have stashed away from the days when we were little girls and did pillowcases. Have a great week. I look forward to seeing you again next week.